How does it work?
Well, it's easy. You just press the letters and they print on the paper.
Get back, please.
They were trying to hide it, so I knew it was wrong.
Where's Gwen now?
Doing the dining room with Anna. They'll be finishing.
Then I'll wait.
With all due respect, Mr. Carson, Gwen is under my jurisdiction.
Indeed she is, Mrs. Hughes, and I have no intention of usurping your authority. I merely want to get to the bottom of it.
Why shouldn't Gwen have a typewriter if she wants one?
Mind your own business.
What's that doing here?
Ah, Gwen, come in.
Why is that down here? Who's been in my room? They had no right.
See here. In the first place, none of the rooms in this house belong to you. And in the second, I am in charge of your welfare, and that gives me every right.
This is you, isn't it?
All we want is to know what Gwen wants with a typewriter and why she feels the need to keep it secret.
She wants to keep it private, not secret. There's a difference.
Oh, man.
I've done nothing to be ashamed of. I've bought a typewriter and I've taken a postal course in shorthand. I'm not aware that either of these actions is illegal.
Will you tell us why? Preferably without any more cheek.
Because I want to leave service. I want to be a secretary.
You want to leave service?
What's wrong with being in service?
Nothing's wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with mending roads, neither. But it's not what I want to do.
I should remind you that there are plenty of young girls who would be glad of a position in this house.
And when I hand in my notice, I shall be happy to think one of them will be taking my place.
What makes you think we'll wait till then?
Are you hiring and sacking now, Miss O'Brien? I thought that lay with Mr. Carson and Mrs. Hughes.
Enough of this. I'm going to ring the dressing gong, and we'll have no more talk of this tonight.
Can I have my machine back now?
Very well, but I wish I was sure you know what you're doing.
Daisy, what's happened to you? I said you could go for a drink of water, not a trip up the Nile.
Are you looking for something?
Lady Mary? I just wanted to make sure the room had been tidied up after the people had left.
Life can be terribly unfair, can't it?
It certainly can.
Everything seems so golden one minute, then turns to ashes the next. Can I ask you a question, Carson? Have you ever felt your life was somehow slipping away, and there was nothing you could do to stop it?
I think everyone feels that at one time or another.
The odd thing is, I feel, for the first time, really, I understand what it is to be happy. It's just I know that I won't be.
Don't say that, my lady. Don't raise the white flag quite yet. You'll still be mistress of Downton. Old Lady Grantham hasn't given up the fight, not by a long chalk.
Oh, that? I wasn't even thinking about that.
And if I may say so, my lady, you're still very young.
Am I? I don't feel it.
We're all behind you, my lady. The staff. We're all on your side.
Thank you, Carson. You've always been so kind to me. Always. From when I was quite a little girl. Why is that?
Even a butler has his favourites, my lady.
Does he? I'm glad.
Lady Mary? Oh, my lady, I thought...
Carson and I were just making sure that everything was ship-shape and Bristol fashion. And it is. Good night, Carson.
Good night, my lady.
Now, will you kindly explain what in heaven is going on?
I'm perfectly well, Mrs. Hughes. A bit stiff, that's all.
Just so long as you know, I'm not leaving until you tell me.
I hope you have a strong stomach.
Oh, God.
Well, here goes.
Do you not think we ought to say a few words?
What? Good riddance?
That and your promise.
Very well. I promise I will never again try to cure myself. I will spend my life happily as the butt of others' jokes, and I will never mind them.
We all carry scars, Mr. Bates, inside or out. You're no different to the rest of us, remember that?
I will try to. That I do promise.
Good riddance. I thought it might be nice to cheer it up a bit.
Easier said than done.
Perhaps with a flower or a bit of veil or something.
I can find you a veil if you like. I hope you're not expecting me to do it.
Not if you're busy, of course.
Good.
And Miss O'Brien, I've sent Anna to bed with a cold, so I need you to manage the young ladies.
What, all three of them? I'm not an octopus. Why can't Gwen do it?
Because she is not a lady's maid.
I am not a slave.
Just do it, Miss O'Brien, just do it. I'm just off, Mr. Carson.
According to the wine book, we should still have 6 dozen of this. But I'm beggared if I can find much more than 4.
Look again before you jump to any nasty conclusions.
Long time since you last took a night off.
You don't think I ought to stay, do you?
Yeah, certainly not. Be off with you.
And Anna's in bed with a cold, so I'm afraid it's all down to you.
Go.
I'd tell you off, but I like to hear you play. Where are they all?
I'm busy, I suppose.
Haven't you got anything to do?
Yes, I have. Of course I have.
You mustn't let Thomas get you down. He's just jealous. Everyone likes you better than him.
Not everyone.
Then she's a foolish girl and she doesn't deserve you. Though why am I encouraging you? Forget all that. For 10 years at least.
You're a kind woman, Mrs. Hughes. I don't know how this house would run without you. I don't, truly.
Stop flanneling and get on. Before I betray you to Mr. Carson.
Well, that's the greatness done and dusted for the night.
William, you had a good night?
I'm off to bed.
Wait. What happened?
Nothing. Doesn't matter.
How was your evening, Mrs. Hughes?
Very enjoyable, thank you. The others are just behind me, so you can lock up in a minute. Well, I'll say good night.
Good night, Mrs. Hughes.
Night.
No, good night.
Good night, Mrs. Hughes. I was right when I said she was looking sparkly-eyed.
I beg your pardon, Thomas.
He can disapprove all he likes. Mrs. Hughes has got a fancy man.
Him, a fancy man?
Don't be so nasty, Daisy. It doesn't suit you.
I reckon there's a job vacancy coming up. Miss O'Brien, do you fancy a promotion?
Oh, very droll. If she's got a boyfriend, I'm a giraffe.
I put out the Rundle candlesticks for dinner tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll come back later.
No, stay, please. I've got something I'd like to talk to you about, if you've a minute. Before I first came here as head housemaid, I was walking out with a farmer. When I told him I'd taken a job at Downton, he asked me to marry him. I was a farmer's daughter from Argyll, so I knew the life. He was very nice. But then I came here and I did well, and I didn't want to give it up, so I told him no. And he married someone else. She died 3 years ago. And last month he wrote asking to see me again. And I agreed, because all this time I've wondered.
Go on.
I met him the other night. We had dinner at the Grantham Arms, and after he took me to the fair.
And he was horrible and fat and red-faced, and you couldn't think what you ever saw in him.
He was still a nice man. He is still a nice man. Well, he was a bit red-faced, and his suit was a little tight, but none of that matters. In the real ways, he hadn't changed.
And he proposed again, and you accepted?
In many ways, I wanted to accept. But I'm not that farm girl anymore. I was flattered, of course, but I've changed, Mr. Carson.
Life's altered you, as it's altered me. And what would be the point of living if we didn't let life change us? You won't be leaving, then?
You better come. Mrs. Patmore's on the rampage. She wants the key to the store cupboard. You know how angry she gets. She hasn't got one of her own.
Nor will she have, not while I'm housekeeper here. Leaving? When would I ever find the time?